Hey y'all, it's Candace with Slusher Consulting, specializing in non-medical home care here in Texas. Although this I think is relevant to everywhere across the country. So have a listen if you are in home care, whether you're brand new to the game or you've been in it a long time. This might be a good refresher for some of you. Today we're going to talk about inquiries and intake. When someone actually calls your office looking for care, how to handle that first phone call, how to immediately start establishing trust and starting on that path toward loyalty with hopefully what's going to be a good client, a long-term client for you. The first thing I want to talk about is when that phone rings, you need to stop whatever else you're doing and pay attention to only that call. No multitasking, even though multitasking isn't a real thing, but no switching back and forth between tasks while you're talking to somebody who could potentially be paying you thousands of dollars a month to take care of a loved one. Okay, so they can hear you if you're distracted, just like when you're on the phone with somebody and they're no longer paying attention. Okay, so if you're still typing, if you're driving, they're gonna know. So be mindful about that. Make sure that they get all of your attention and they can tell they get all of your attention. The second thing is smile. People can hear you when you're smiling. If you've had a rough day, I need you to pretend that you haven't and drop all of that so that you can focus only on the caller. They are the ones who need your attention right now. Nothing else, no one else. This is very important to your business. So I actually like to keep a little mirror by my desk so that I can glance up and see my own smile. I don't always love looking at myself, but I can see a smile. It does just remind me. Maybe want to draw a little happy face or something on your mirror, but that's important. How you answer the call is important. So if somebody just says, ABC Home Care, this is Candace, that's not going to give the other person on the person on the other end of the line really great feelings about who they're calling, because they're like, what did I hear? Who am I calling? What's this about? Who are you? When they thought they knew who they were calling. Now, the last thing you want to do is just answer the phone, hello, or yeah, or something, as if you're busy, as if you're not a working business. So if you have a dedicated business line, or if you don't, you need to have a system in place for that. You've got to know whenever you're answering a business call. Okay, if you're sharing a line with a personal line or something, that's going to be really important. So what I recommend, and I actually learned this from the late great Sid Hulbert, is this is how I want you to answer the phone. Now, this is just if you're following my advice, but it's good advice and it works. You want to say, good afternoon. Thank you for calling ABC Home Care. This is Candace. How can I help you? Now that sounds tedious. And of course, recognizing whether it's morning or afternoon can be difficult, or evening even. But it's good practice. So if you want to print something up and put it right in front of your phone so that it can remind you for a while you're getting those great habits, to make sure that the person on the other end of the line can hear you and understands. A lot of times they're a senior, or maybe they're in a hospital setting and they're calling for a loved one, or maybe they're driving and trying to multitask. So you need to be the one who is clear and easy to understand. They need to know who they are calling and they need to feel welcome with that call. So taking the time to say good morning or good afternoon. Thank you for calling wherever you're calling so that they can hear that. This is your name. How can I help you? And that's what they need to hear. We put this put this into practice in our business years and years ago, and I had countless people say, no matter who answered the phone in the office, we answered it the same way. I had countless people say to me when it came to me for an inquiry, just the way the person answered the phone made me feel so comfortable. I'm ready to talk to you. And it's a matter of preparing yourself and also preparing them, kind of ritualistic even. So highly recommend having a standard way that you answer the phone. Okay. So all that said, they're calling because they need you, right? So you first thing you want to say is, they tell you what they're calling for. You've said, how can I help you? So you want to clarify, you're needing help for. Is it yourself? Is it a loved one? Is it your parent? Is it a grandparent? Whatever they've said to you, kind of repeat that back and make sure that you're writing notes. Now, you can either write notes or you can type notes if you're an efficient typer, but you don't want to be banging on a keyboard. So make sure that that noise isn't very loud and distracting. But if you use an EMR or a good software system that has a decent marketing, customer relations management section so that you can write in, how did they hear about you? Who are they needing help for? Who is the contact? Is the contact the one who needs care? That kind of thing. And then where are they? Are they at their home? Are they currently in the hospital, or are they at a facility? Is where they are now going to be where they ultimately need the care, or are they preparing for discharge? So, you ask a few of those questions, but a lot of times when you just say, how can I help you? People will just start talking. They've got their story ready. They are in crisis. They need help. And you might hear some panic. You might hear somebody sounding kind of rushed, or maybe even a little more assertive or even aggressive than you would love to hear, but it's because they're in crisis. So you have got to be the calm one. You've got to be the professional. You're the expert. That's why they're calling you. And so remaining calm, trying not to do the thing too much is helpful, but just ask questions and then, say, okay, I can absolutely help with their care. Tell me what's going on. Did you notice that pause there? I can help with their care. They need to hear that. Okay, so they can take a deep breath. You've called the right place. You've done the right thing. I'm taking a breath, prompts them to take a breath. Tell me what's going on. And then you're just going to listen and take notes after notes after notes, okay? Ask deeper questions if you need to. And if they're not giving you a lot of information, and some people might do that, they might feel guarded, or maybe they're just calling for pricing and they don't want to share a lot of information. It takes a while to get to learn who's just shopping around and who's really serious, but you're going to take every call seriously as much as you can. But you want to get their story. Um, is there a diagnosis of dementia? Do they know a specific type? Or what has happened recently that's requiring care? A lot of times they'll just give you this backstory and then you have to say, okay, so what was the most recent event that caused you to call today? What's going on? Ask about, okay, I got the history, but now what's going on today? So that way, let them get through their initial spiel and give you all the information that they've got just right on the tip of their tongue. And then you can say, okay, all this is really great to know. It sounds like the priority is, and then what is their immediate need? Okay, so the immediate need might be peace of mind for the family. It might be if she has another fall, this could be the one. It might be that we just need to get her proper meals and hydration and medications when she goes home. It could be anything. So you need to listen to what their need is. The person on the phone, what do they need from you first? What does the client need overall? Okay, kind of address both of those. And so then, you're just going to have a little discussion. And if they say, tell me about your services, then you will. But just listing off, we can do a shower, we can do, dressing and grooming and hydration and nutrition, all that kind of stuff. Everybody does that. Your website does that. Your brochure that somebody gave them probably does that. I have to go back and say, as soon as possible, or at least at the end of the call, either at the beginning or the end, you do need to ask, how did you hear about our company? Who gave you our information? And they may not know. They might just say, I have this stack of brochures that I picked up. They might say, you were on a list from a case manager. If you can find out which case manager, awesome. If not, if you can find out which hospital and which floor, that's going to give you some of that information. You can go back to your contacts. It might be a home health. It might be a doctor. It might be anybody. Try to find out. If they don't remember, that's okay. You're going to have a list of unknowns. It might just be online. If you think that they can answer, it was Google or it was, you know, any other particular website, that's great, or Facebook, fine if you can identify it. If they can't, don't make it a big sticking point. Maybe you can find out more information later anyway. But you definitely want to find out where they came from, because that information needs to go back into your system. Who is referring to you, right? You've got to be able to track that. Okay, sidetrack. Sorry, I should have said that at the beginning. So you don't just want to list out your services. They are important, but you really want to list the focus on the benefits of the services. Okay, so medication reminders, of course. But what that equals is peace of mind for both the family and the client to know that they're taking those medications correctly and that they're not going to have any more complications like they did last time, right? Hygiene and bathing, great, we do a shower. But really we're talking about an improved health, an improved sense of normalcy, just feeling better, getting that shower every day if that's what they used to do. You're trying to help them return to again, a sense of normalcy. What was their routine before, whatever the activating event was, whatever caused them to need care right now. Now, they might not ever get to go back to their old normal, and maybe part of your goal is to help them establish a new normal. We had a stroke. This is how we're going to live now. This is what's going on, you know. Um, Whatever your policy is on if you have minimum number of hours per week or minimum number of hours per shift, you do want to explain that somewhat if you can by the end, but they might already know what they need. They might not already know what they need. A lot of times you can flesh that out either during this conversation or gathering as much information as you can now. You may not get down to, the nuts and bolts of exactly the hours and the schedule they need until you finish their initial assessment and say, okay, well, with all of these things we need to accomplish, this is the amount of time we need, and then let's talk about schedule. So, and they might know right away, this is what we need, and understand that could change because if they're in the midst of crisis, they might think they know, but that could need to be flexible over time. Okay, so the big deal is you want to give the caller the message that the reason our company exists is to make your life easier. I'm on your team. We're on your side now. You are not alone in this journey anymore. Okay, the number one goal is to help them feel better. Maybe ultimately you're not even going to be the right answer for them, right? But you need to help them feel better. They'll remember that. They'll remember, I called this company, they listened to me. They helped me feel better. I felt so much better when I hung up. The second goal, of course, is to try and get the assessment, to get it scheduled then if you can. And if you cannot get it scheduled right then, maybe they need to go back and talk to siblings, or, I'm calling 4 different agencies and we need to do some comparisons. Whatever is fine. Again, your goal is to make sure they feel good talking to you. So hopefully you're going to be at the very top of that list if they're still talking to multiple people. And hopefully they'll be honest with you about that. But if they ask about your costs, I would give them a price range. Now, if you have a set cost or set price and that works for you, that's fine. But I prefer to give a range of $4 to $5, the lowest being what I would give them if they were going to be 24/7 and it's going to be pretty straightforward and I know that I can staff it fairly easily. The highest would be if it's a smaller number of hours so that you can pay those caregivers a little bit more if you need to, or if they are further out of town, if you have any other sort of, if it's outside of this certain parameter, we upcharge, that kind of thing, you'll want to mention that when they ask about pricing. But I like to give them a range so that once I've gotten out there, I've dealt with the traffic or the driveway or walked into the house and see 3 dogs and 2 cats and a bird. Whatever it is, always you're keeping in mind pricing when it comes, you have to keep your caregivers in mind. And how hard is it going to be to staff? But again, if you have a set pricing structure, great, give it to them. Otherwise, a range is safe for you and you give them the final rate once you've done the assessment. Okay, if there's 2 people, you might want to mention a second person fee so they don't think it's a flat rate for both, but those are all things you'll find out during the conversation. The last thing is, if you do not get the assessment scheduled, it's ideal if you can get it scheduled right now today. If they need you to come out today, then you will. If it's going to be, the doctor says we're discharging on Friday, then I would ask to go on Thursday so you could go to the facility, make sure you see them in that environment, and then update the service plan when you get home. Rather than waiting until you get home, you can do a lot more planning if you could do it earlier. And then if they don't allow you to do the assessment now, you just need a plan for follow-up that you'll discuss with them. So you're not just going to say, okay, and hang up and then not know what's going on. I would say, if I don't hear back from you by tomorrow or 2 days, whatever the conversation leads to, may I call you back? Or is there someone else I should be following up with? Or when they say that maybe they have another family member they need to discuss with, you could say, I'm happy to hop on another call with her as well, or with both of you, or would you like to do a video chat if that's easier? If there's going to be more questions or there's a lot of family dynamics, there's just so many different factors, things that factor into their decision. And it's not just cost always. But have a plan for follow-up if they do not schedule the assessment today. Your big goal is to make sure, I love to hear the sigh. I want to hear them, okay, I feel better. I feel like somebody's got my back. I'm not alone anymore in this. I don't feel as scared as I did about what's going to happen with my mom. That's your goal. Okay. And if you can get there, the assessment usually comes naturally. So I wish you luck. If you are struggling in this area, please reach out to me on my website, slusherconsulting.com, and schedule a call. I'd love to visit with you and maybe give you a little more coaching on how that's going. All right. Take care.